guys, thank you so much for staying with Speak Your Truth, The Untold. I'm Yana Positive, and today we're gonna just talk about how is it that you break ties with your old self. Breaking ties with your old self. And when it comes to mind, when that title comes to mind, the questions that you think about are, who am I? Who was I then? Who am I now? What are my thoughts now? What were my thoughts then? What plans do I have for the future? And how do I get there? And I think it's very, very, very important. It's so imperative that in order to be successful, we break ties with our old self. We hear so much about I'm a promise, I'm a possibility. We hear about self-actualization for those who study psychology, and that's talking about reaching your full potential. But really, how is it that you get from point A to point B? How is it that you get there? So in my first video, I talked about what you want, and I talked about how is it that you step out in faith and grab what you want. But really, an important part of getting what you want in life is really to break ties with your old self. What do I mean by that? If you want to get from one point to another, you need to do something in the middle. And that means breaking old habits. There's some habits that you're harboring that is stopping you from reaching your full potential and your goals. And I don't want you guys to think I'm an expert. I'm really not, because I don't think I've reached my full potential in life or where I want to be, but I can give you some nuggets from what I've learned just so far. So if it is that you want to move from being a D student to an A student, what do? The habits, your habits, it's a must. Your habits have to change. Either you stay up late nights and early mornings and you study, you work hard, you work smart, you dedicate yourself. So even when you're not feeling like it, you push yourself to achieve what you want. And that's what I'm talking about, breaking old ties with yourself. Breaking ties with your old self. It means breaking off your old habits. If it is that you want to move from being poor to being rich, what is it that you do? Some people, they go to their jobs and they're intent on getting that promotion. Others, they go to university and they're intent on getting that degree because they want to move from being poor to being rich. And in school, we learn about the cycle of poverty. And that's basically the baseline of that theory is that poverty is a state of mind. And we hear it all the time, poverty in your mind, it's a state of mind, mental poverty. That means that a lot of people who are poor, they're born poor, but they choose to stay poor. It's not that there aren't opportunities out there, and yes, we acknowledge that there are exceptional cases, but there are opportunities out there for you to go for what you want in life. And if you really, really want it, you start changing your habits to get it. But a lot of people won't change their mindset, and that's what holds them back. They're still the same person they were when they were 16 in their mind. They have the same habits of going to bed late, doing nothing, getting up, doing nothing, and living their days doing nothing substantial. And so they grow up with these same habits and they continue it. You'll hear them saying, I want to get rich, I want to have this dream life, I want to do this, but they'll never achieve it. Why? Because they don't change your mindset to go for it. And a lot of these people, you will see them on TV, they're telling the government that the government needs to provide for them, when in truth and in fact, they should go and provide for themselves. But That's in the mind. That's what I'm saying. We need to break ties with our old self. These habits that you form will allow you to succeed. And a lot of the success pages that I follow on Instagram will tell you that in order to succeed, it will take late nights, early mornings, lots of dedication, lots of hard work, a lot of persistence. But what do you do with those late nights? Because I can go to bed late and I'm just watching movies while you go to bed late because you're on the hustle, you're on the grind, and you're working. That's the difference right there. I can get up early just for a smoke, but you get up early because you want to get your exercise, you want to get your activities in, you want to have a little worship session, and you want to start your day right. So I think that makes all the difference between what makes us a successful person or a person striving for success versus a person who is just saying that they want to succeed but doing nothing about it. Or habits or mentality, they make all the difference in the world. And I always say to people will want what you have until they know what it takes to get there. I see a lot of persons and they say, the person they have a Honda, they say it with such bitterness. And persons go around actually coveting other persons for what they worked hard for. But in fact, you can get it too if you work hard for it. That's why you need to break ties with your old self. You need to change. And let me tell you something, change is messy. Change is uncomfortable because as humans, we like to stay in our comfort zone. But we need to get up and go for what we want. And that includes breaking ties with your old self, breaking your old habits, breaking up the mentality that you have. Let's break it down a little bit. So the topic is breaking ties with your old self. If we take the word ties, it actually means something that bounds you or restrains you. If we look at break, it means setting yourself free from something. And we look at old self, it means that things you used to do, places you used to go, and people you usually associate with, you do those things no more. You don't do them anymore. Because you see, if it is that you associate yourself with the same people that you had when you were at point A or at the bottom, then believe it or not, there's a good chance you will be dragged down back there. Because habits are so hard to break. I don't know if you've ever tried to break a bad habit before, but it's so hard to break. And if you don't have the right support, then you'll get right back down to point A. So I'm telling you that in order to get where you want to go in life, sometimes you have to drop some people. And that's the truth. Because you need to identify those persons who aren't actively contributing to your growth and rather are pulling you down, and you need to let go of them. If you can't bring them up with you, you let go of them. Because those habits, you need to break them, and in order to break them, you now have to associate yourself with some sort of support. If I'm a drug addict and I smoke, I drink all day, I take cocaine, and if it is that I go back to my same coke friends every day, I'm gonna link them. Just go link them if you have just hang out. Then eventually I'm gonna fall back in that habit because I'm putting myself in the position to do so. So things you used to do, places you used to go, you go them no more, you do them no more. And you also need to recognize the stage you are in life. Now, I'm gonna get a little psychological, but you'll be able to follow me. Erik Erikson, who is a psychologist, he coined the 6 stages of development that you go through from infancy to adulthood, and it's very interesting to know, so you can look it up. And he stated that at stage 6, which is intimacy versus isolation, many of us get stuck there for the rest of our lives. And this is the stage where we're in our early 20s and late teens. You know why? Because when we meet somebody that we encounter a serious we want to establish a serious relationship with, and that relationship didn't turn out the way you wanted it to, it breaks your trust and it has such a great impact on your life that you never move from where you are to the next stage. And stage 7 is actually generativity versus stagnation. That means that persons who are over 25, this is for persons who are over 25, they've started a family of their own, they're living their dream life, whatever it is, whether it's a job, house, car. They've established some sense of belonging and purpose. And stagnation is staying where they were. So they haven't started a successful family. They're doing a job they don't like very much, or they just go to because they need to live. And it really explains a lot, because this relationship allowed you to block your mind, whether it was your self-esteem that it damaged or whether it was your trust in people, and it really allowed you to isolate yourself from the support you need to get where you want to go. So we really need to recognize the magnitude of relationship with others. Let's get a little biblical. We're looking at Bible characters who actually broke ties with their old self, and we're looking at how God recognized that. So we look at Saul, who was a very intellectual man, a man who actually killed and persecuted Christians, but he had a very high position job where he would kill Christians. And on the road to Damascus, he met God, who these same Christians were worshipping. And he himself became a Christian. So the man who used to kill and persecute Christians became a Christian. And in order to break the tie from his old self, Saul now became Paul, which we know today. You see that? Because in the Bible, names have meanings. And even today, be careful of how you name your baby. That's just a side note, because those names have meaning. And I know a lot of persons who embody the meanings of their name. My name is Ayana, and it means beautiful flower, and I think I do embody that. But in the Bible, to signify that you are no longer that person, God would grant you a new name. And so in order to become the newer, better version of ourselves, we need to grant ourselves the ability to change. We need to grant ourselves a new name. So Ayana, the procrastinator, is now Ayana, the person who has initiative. Ayana, the person who used to smoke, is now clean for 2 years. You need to grant yourself a new title. You can't just be calling yourself by a bad name. Oh, I'm not so smart. So you'll not be smart for the rest of your life because you're telling yourself that you're not smart. You need to grant yourself a new name, a new habit. Put something new to it. So if it is that you're somebody who is known for being lazy, put some habits in place to become somebody who's a hard worker. So no longer is your name associated with being lazy, but it's now associated with being a hard worker. And that's what it's about. Breaking ties with your old self. It brings me back to the story with the woman with the issue of blood. You notice you've never heard her name in the Bible. Names are important. Remember I told you that. And the woman who was caught in adultery, you never hear their names in the Bible. People have a lot of speculation of who it was, but you've actually never heard their names in the Bible. And that is what they were known for. This woman had this issue for 12 years. 12 long years of just bleeding out. And that was what she was known for. But her story changed from the woman who was sick for 12 years with this embarrassing illness to somebody who had such faith that she had to touch the hem of Jesus's garment. And that's the power in breaking ties with your old self. That's the power of it. And it brings me back to myself, the fact that in order to get from just a little country girl from Hanover to somebody who wanted to impact lives on a bigger level, I took the step of going to university to study social work. And that's what I'm talking about, breaking ties with your old self. And I look back at myself and I think that I've changed so much. I've grown so much. There are characteristics in me I don't even recognize anymore, but I've developed them over time. And I believe that's the strength of becoming a newer, better version of yourself. Now, I'm going to read you guys something. I think journaling is very, very important in breaking ties with your old self. It's extremely important. Even just to jot stuff down in your memo, it's really important to go back and look at what your thoughts and what your feelings were about then. All right, so it's just simpler, easy, whatever is best for you. You can jot it down in your memo, you can write it down in a book, but I prefer writing it down. So I'm gonna give you guys, it's I don't even know what I was doing back then. This was like a book I cut in half and tape up and write upon. Only people must have their own privacy, no trespassing. But I'm gonna give you guys a little look in what my past was like. Alright, so this is December 26, 2010. So I was like, dear diary, this is so embarrassing. He's so cute. He has well manners. Grammar. He's smart. Él es sexy. That's Spanish. I love him. He asks, I didn't love him. I was like 12 and didn't even know what love was. He asked me to start back where we left off. Oh, this is what I've always wanted for 2 years. Or should I say 2.5? But I keep hearing my mother's annoying voice. Don't have a boyfriend. Well, my mother was really right. I should not have a boyfriend. I was like 12. What I was doing with a boyfriend? I've heard it so many times. Doesn't she think I'm sick of it? But right there, sitting on the phone, I was spellbound, not knowing what to say. Then suddenly I find the strength to say, I'll think about it. I'm so dramatic. Just his smile makes butterflies appear in my tummy. Imagine kissing those lips. Oh my gosh, I'm going too far now. Alright, so that was an entry from my old journal. Looking back, I can say, because this is what I'm saying. Looking back, this was 10 years ago? 10 years ago. So looking back, I can see how my thoughts have changed, how I've matured, how I think differently. Boy, I'm really dramatic. Alright. But it's important to journal your thoughts. Now my thoughts are much more deep and I'm probably less dramatic, but yeah, that was the idea of it. So I just ended up this podcast with a little piece of me, so you know a little bit about me, more about me. But the basic idea of this is you need to break off ties with your old self in order to get where you want to be in life. Alright? And that means breaking old habits. That means breaking the mentality that you have. That means associating yourself with people who can support that new version of you, support that dream. And that also means looking at where you are in life, the stage you are in life, and really analyzing where you want to be. Alright, so thank you guys for joining this week's episode. I'll see you again soon.